You are without George.
Yes.
Did you get a call from Steve to explain why he was taking him away on the eve of first versus second at all?
Not from Steve. I haven't spoken to Steve. He's obviously very busy. This is the process that he wants to continue moving forward, and I can understand that. Otherwise, he'd be at 12 DORs, not beck and call, but having to communicate once or twice a week. And I don't, if I had to do that, it would take too much of my time and resources. So I understand why he's doing it. I spoke to Richard Hill, as I do a couple of times, and because of how he played at the weekend, which was in parts the George Ford that we know and love, brilliant in terms of his variety of attacking options and prowess that he had on the field. They wanted to see him in camp this week, which automatically rules him out of the weekend. I don't know if there's a slim chance. I'm holding on to some small slim thread that maybe they'll release him on Saturday night. Whether or not we select him or put him on the bench, then it's down to us. But that's not. There's nothing concrete on that. That's just me and pipe dreams. But
can you ask?
Yeah, and I will. But so they've got training. So my understanding of it is this: they've got training all week, Tuesday through Thursday. But they're contracted to Saturday. They release them on Thursday, and there are players who were in the training squad of 35 who were playing games this weekend. So I'm sure what he wants is all the cards on the table, having taken into account all the performances of people he has, earmarked for various positions, on the back of injury, fitness, wellness. And you won't get to know that until Saturday night, will you? So that's why he's keeping his powder dry, and it's his prerogative to do that.
Because the argument used by Steve yesterday to us was that Marcus needs game time.
Yeah.
But if anybody needs game time, it's George.
I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. But, fortunately, our opinion doesn't come into it, does it?
But your argument for having him back would be that he needs game time.
Yeah, and he needs game time. If he played Sunday, he wouldn't be able to train Monday nor Tuesday. So that would probably, he would be able to train Tuesday, but not a lot. So that kind of rules him out of preparation for the France game, doesn't it? If there's injuries, let's look at the other side of it. If there's injuries, 1 or 2 injuries, then again he's in the mix. And in playing Sunday, it could risk him for preparation for France. So, I have tried to put myself in his shoes and ask myself what I'd do if I was Steve, and I would let him get some more game time.
Have you spoken to George about possibility of coming back?
No, because it's all hypothetical and wasted energy when you're talking in those kind of circles. I want him to focus on him getting himself into that England team, and the best chance of him doing that's training well this week and being available, on the performance he's put in, which was a good performance. So that's what we spoke about on the bus on the way home on Sunday.
Just on George, is it a wrong perception? But he seems to be hitting heavier in a tackle. Has he worked on upper body strength and that sort of aspect? Because obviously he was always perceived as being someone you could run at just because of his size.
Yeah, Chris, of course he has, because when you can't run, what else can you do? And he's quite a chunky fella, he was shoulder pressing the same as me, probably more than me actually. It's not embarrassing, he's a professional athlete, but I've got to be 30 k's heavier than him. So he's worked really hard on his upper body. Strong with it, and I think that transferred quite well at the weekend. We've also, kind of got a defensive system. He's never been short of heart, small of heart, George. It's purely been a physics thing, isn't it? Size, momentum, kinetic energy into tackle or whatever. But he's definitely beefed up in that area, and he's in good shape. So it was good that he managed to put a few shots in. Bear in mind, there was over 300 tackles at the weekend, Chris. So, everyone had the fair share.
Finally, discipline, 2 yellows.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you had the chats with them? And you can't afford to do that against anybody, but certainly not against the top team in the league. Coming up this weekend,
we've tripled our yellow card count. It was actually something we were really proud of, being the worst last year to the best this year. And I wouldn't say jinxed ourselves, but obviously we've taken our eye off some aspects that have led to good discipline in recent weeks, and some of it might be personnel. I think that we've addressed it with the lads, in line with the expression, how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, can we be more disciplined in everything we do on and off the field? And that's been a bit of a torch that we've carried this week, because the lads know that with 15 players on the field, we're probably 6 table points better off than where we are now. And you can't say that for certain, but we looked pretty good, didn't we, with 15 in both games? 14, good. 13, shambles, but who is good with 13?
Good. Thank you, Alex.
Cheers, Chris.
Afternoon, Alex. How are you?
I'm very well, Kieran. What nuggets of wisdom do you have for me to nod my head to today? Because generally you answer your own questions when it comes to your knowledge with us. It does, though. You're very well informed.
In terms of kicking duties,
yeah.
What's the thinking behind Rob? Obviously, in the Northampton game, George came on as a substitute, but he started at 10 and played the full 80 on Sunday. What's the thinking behind who is kicking a goal on Sunday with both Rob and George on the pitch?
It's a good question, because Simon Orange asked me the same question. We are all, you, me, well aware of George's kicking percentage and prowess from the floor, out of hand, when he's in flow, in form, and he's back to his best in terms of game time. Coming back to Chris's point, he's not a supercar, where you can just spend your money and you get the machine. Like, it's a bit more complex than that, isn't it? We're human beings. Thankfully, that's why I've got a job. So, on the back of that metaphor, we have kicking competitions in the week. We have obviously technical kicking sessions, and as the week goes on, we'll go down to the opposition ground and we'll have kicking sessions there and competitions there in terms of feel and flow, as well as the wind at that ground. And then we have a discussion about who is best placed to kick for the weekend, given due process, not just from a perception of how good he was in the past and how good he will be again. Where is he right now? And through all that due process, which is multi-layered, Rob's kicking better. So it's a decision that they've come to, along with Warren Spagg, our kicking coach, as to move on that front. I've got no doubt that he will kick his way into a position of authority moving forward, but at present, with 120 minutes under his belt, top-class rugby, he's not where he wants to be.
So going forward, will it be a week-to-week process of deciding who's going to kick that week, or when, for example, George has had more games and hasn't only just come back from a serious injury, will you decide one is the definite kicker when if both of them are on the pitch, and that's the way forward?
Yeah, it's due process week to week.
Okay. Yeah. On the injury front, both Nick Shona and Tommy Taylor pulled out of the squad, having been named. Can you just outline why they were and what their status is for this weekend?
Nick suffered, it sounds worse than actually is this, a shock to his spinal cord. But there's no bulging of discs, there's no prolonged nerve irritation. And at the present he's symptom free, but we had to make sure he was symptom free so we could go through the training process to get gears him up for games. Like we train, we play as we train, and we train to improve. And without him being able to train, you're not up for selection in this organisation. So that's where he was last week. I'm happy to say that he's done everything this week up to this point, and we've got unit sessions tomorrow, so we'll see how he goes with that and whether or not he's fit for selection for the weekend. Tommy had a concussion and not his first, so rightly so, there's a prolonged return to contact protocol with these lads who have had secondary concussions or a second concussion within the season. So we're just looking after his pretty little head, and it is a pretty head. It's a fine bonce of hair. You won't want to. You won't want him to destroy the moneymaker, so to speak. So we've wrapped him in cotton wool, but he's done everything as well this week to date. So there's 2 people there who we're hoping will be available this weekend, and we haven't still made that call yet.
Did he suffer another concussion in training? Because he was named in the original matchday squads when the team news was announced on Friday.
Yeah, no, so you can do return to, this how it works. If it's a secondary concussion and you felt, or a second concussion, or you have symptoms of in a game, rather than the normal seven day turnaround, you go to a 12-day turnaround. And if there's any reoccurring symptoms at any point, like vision, dizziness, whatever, it sets you back a few more days. So we started the week really well, and I said, it's as much as I've got a little bit of a headache. Like, I have a headache pretty much most days, that's just with a job. But if a lad gets it, you've got to be extra careful. So we have been extra careful. It was just a case of, he's good at the start of the week, this is happening, it is a symptom, so we have to be extra careful and just pulled him out. I think that was the right decision.
Will Aka be fit for Sunday?
Again, pending tomorrow, he's done everything thus far. He's training really well.
Were there any fresh injuries from Sunday?
Bev Rod kind of tweaked an ankle, but he's had a scan last night, and he's available for selection, so that's really good. I'm just trying to think. No, I think we're strong. We're strong everywhere else in terms of who we've got available for the guys that Kieran.
On Monday, first new signing for next season announced, a return home for Sam Bedlow.
Yeah.
Just talk us through that process of how that deal came about and how excited you are to be welcoming Sam back to the Northwest.
Well, the process, I guess let me try and cut to the short of it. We wanted a robust, quality centre that could play a multiple number of positions, but primarily inside centre, that would complement the age demographic of the squad and the underlying could epitomise the underlying ethos of what we're trying to build here. Fabric of the North. This guy's been a fan of the club, played for the club. He's from Rosendale, where I spent most of my youth. His brother plays here. It's a in some aspects a fairy tale coming home story. For him, it's a massive boon to us because he's gone away and grown, coming back a much better player with the experience that he's had at Bristol under Pat. So it fits. It fits a lot of the gaps within the type of person and the type of player that we needed to grow with this side, which Kieran is a relatively young side that's got years in it. Like, it fits all those boxes, ticks all those boxes.
Does his arrival have any link to Manu's future?
Well, of course, you have to manage the cap. We circle back, we cycle round again. The same conversation, Kieran. We have to manage the cap for the personnel that we have. I still need to sit down with Manu because as I say, we've been striving and finding a ways where we can keep hold of him, and there's always a chance with this ever shifting salary cap as it is. But what we needed to do first was find someone that we could have and could grow with this team in a position, a crucial position that, for those reasons I've already said, it is the right fit. Not that Manu is the right fit, but we know how old Manu is, and we are all aware of his past injury record. For many reasons, Sam's a really good fit moving forward. Not to say we couldn't keep them both, because I'm not saying that. There's a chance we can, but there's still some conversations need to be had. And he's not with us right now. He's back in England camp. I was supposed to go for a steak with him today and talk about just this, Kieran. So I'll have to put the Malbec on ice. You do that with Malbec, but I'll put it. You know what I mean. I'll pick the glass up next week with him.
Just one final one then. Obviously, that's the first arrival or departures being announced. I know that fans have been asking when we might hear more in terms of players who are coming in and players who are leaving. Can we expect to hear more announcements on who's coming, who's going the next season soon?
I don't. Like I say, I don't have autonomy over this. I have an understanding over it, but and Sam's not around here. He's just gone somewhere else. Convenient. So I'm sure you can, because these things need to get nailed on, signed off at this point. Otherwise, it's very difficult for players to find themselves positions. There's, as you know, like coming back to it, there's not a lot of clubs that are taking a lot of people on because of the current climate. And for us, our priority has always been more based around retention rather than recruitment. And we announced 8 people that we were retaining the services of last week. For me, they're as good. They're better than signings because they're your homegrown. They're people who've committed to staying at a place where they think they can get better. It's when people start leaving en masse where you got to ask the questions. It's a positive thing that we've got young players coming through. Well, if this side that's playing right now is anything to go off, it's a positive thing because, 3/4 of them are academy players, were academy players.
Thanks, Alex.
Cheers, Kieran.
Hi, Alex.
Hello, mate. You all right, John?
Yeah, very well, thank you. We talked about home advantage last week.
Yeah.
So I don't want to sort of dwell too much on that point, but with you being at home, is there anything different that you've done this week, given that you've listened to those podcasts and read those articles about how much a difference it can make?
Yeah, I have. Thank you for the text as well. I think the lessons that we've learned in the last 2 weeks are ones that will put us in good stead, whether it be home or away. It's the big lesson, isn't it? Discipline, as it always is. We haven't played on the fact that it's a sellout crowd and another one at Sale yet. We haven't talked about the motivational factors that come with playing in front of your family. And/or, potentially doing something, beating a team that we haven't beaten since my tenure here, home or away. These are all juicy, mouth-watering challenges. And I don't know if we need to, John.
Yeah.
I think they're fully aware of it.
You faced, obviously, Saracens quite a few times with Sale now, since you joined up with the Sharks. They seem to have changed their style, don't they, to have move it along with the times as they always seem to do. What are the main differences that you can see from the Saracens when you were coaching there and the Saracens now? And I suppose the second part of that is, what have you learned most that you take into your own coaching now from Mark McCall?
The methodology's changed, John. That's for certain, in terms of how they go about it, the underlying principles of what drives that methodology, their work ethic, their resilience, their togetherness, how they celebrate every little win. The defence being on par with ourselves in terms of tries conceded, all those things are a constant. Do you know what I mean? You still got to at least get parity in those areas, if not better them, to beat them. The one areas, I guess, which are quite obvious to anyone with a computer is how they score their tries. They've scored a couple more tries than us. You know, you think about Saracens and a Sale, most people would have the perception that Saracens are a far better attacking team. Maybe because it's the manner that they've scored the tries. They haven't. They've scored 2 more tries than us. But the manner in which they score them are from depth at times, on transition. And so there's that you have to contain. And that's been, you know, kind of focus for us against some of the teams that we're able to go toe-to-toe to physically in Europe. They've had us on transition. So we have to be sharper in those areas from turnover, from kick return and the like.
Yeah, because Ollie Hodge hurt you, didn't he, 2 or 3 times at the weekend?
Yes, thanks for that, John. Yeah, he was exceptional when we were down to 13 men, wasn't he? Like, different level. And he's a great runner, don't get me wrong, but you can't, that's what you said, that's kind of what Chris said, you just can't give people like Hodge or Good or whoever plays at fullback, Rotty Segan, space to attack from. So and that's how you kick, how you chase, and how many people that are chasing, evidently.
On the McCall bit.
Yeah, oh yeah, go on. What have I taken from him?
What's the thing that remains constant that you've brought over yourself?
Honesty, I think, like, it's the key thing for me that I've taken from Mark. Mark Smalley is, like I said in the past, like what he did for me as a head coach was kind of see all the ghosts, like have all the negative contingency plans thought out in his own head, and he'd probe and question me as to not what the obvious things are that you have to coach, guard, make the lads aware of, but what could happen. And so you know, it's like, why is he worrying about that? Why is he worrying about that? But invariably, it kind of armours you. So when it does happen, it's not a surprise. You know, you've got a bit of a plan for it, even if it's just through having to think about it. So I've taken that on. I stress a lot more. And I'm trying to lead from. I'm trying to let others lead more. In terms of the stereotypical way. Like, it's not all about me. And if it was about me this week, I'd probably get my gander up too much. So I'm trying to let other people come to the fore and lead in their ways, but with a similar message.
Overall Insights, by the way, have knocked off a few tackles, 268.
Yeah.
But that's still 40 more than the highest.
Is it?
Premiership this season, yeah.
Wow. No, we said that. We said, look, it's going to be a mammoth effort. It's going to be 200 tackles plus, and so it proved to be. They're a good team, aren't they? They're a good team with 15 men. There's only Sarries beat them. I come back to that. I'm really proud of the effort that this lad showed. They especially at half time, because they were chasing shadows for 10 minutes before half time. And they scored 2 tries against them, and they come in physically knackered because they're chasing shadows, mentally shocked because they've given a 7-point lead or whatever it was to a 11-point deficit. And I've been there when teams have crumbled, and it could have been a 20, 30-pointer. And the way they reframed it, talked about going after him in that second half, like that as much as it hurts and how frustrating it is, on the surface, the frustration, there's an underlying sense of pride and also anticipation, excitement about where we could go. Like, I don't think we're very far away from being very good, this side.
Nice one.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Alex, Miles here.
Hey, Miles, you all right? I can't see you.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Your face,
Great to
but
see you too.
that's all right.
A couple from me.
There you go.
I don't know whether it's a one-word answer or not, but does this game have any relevance at all if you were to meet later on in the season, these two clubs?
Yeah, I think it does. I believe it does. We'll change tactics again if we're lucky enough to do that, and there's still a lot of water that's got to flow under the bridge. But it'll be a bit more of a milestone for us because we talk about belief, and I think the boys do believe that we can, that we've got the minerals. But it cements that belief, doesn't it? That you deserve to be where you are, in that upper echelon to the table, and that, what we've been striving for the last 2 years is attainable. It cements that belief. It means it's knowledge, not just faith.
And you've alluded to it a little bit, and you said you're not really focused on it yet in terms of the crowd and what they can bring. But home advantage is massive, isn't it? I mean, Saracens themselves have proved that this year. They've been teetering on the edge in various games, but they've found a way.
6.
And maybe it's playing at home that's just got them over the line on a couple of occasions. So it is an important factor, and you want your crowd to really let Saracens know about it, won't you?
Yeah, and we want to give them something to cheer about, don't we? Like you mentioned that 6 games in the last minute they've won. Therein lies a challenge on the back of what we talked about before, not just transition. Like, this thing is going to go to the death. If we get everything else right, it's still going to go to the death, because they're that good. We will be calling on the crowd, and I certainly will be looking up in the stands to see my missus and my little lad there cheering me on. Because, getting the crowds there, I feel like it has made a difference this season. And we're filling it, so obviously we're putting something out there that they're enjoying as well. But it's Wednesday, isn't it? Like, it's Wednesday, and you can go all in too early on weeks like this. I've been there, where you end up getting yourself so wound up, saying all that needs to be said, and then it loses a bit of its lustre, a little bit of its sparkle back end of the week.